Hello and welcome to another Analysis Behind the News, where we provide the perspective that you can use to help save American liberty and independence. Today we have one action item for you, so please stay tuned. Last week, longtime Washington Post columnist Eugene Robinson confirmed what many of us already know, that the media supports the unconstitutional mores known as the swamp or the deep state. Not surprisingly, Mr. Robinson encourages what some are calling open sedition against the Trump administration. In his Washington Post column titled, "God Bless the Deep State," Mr. Robinson writes, "Before this harebrained and reckless administration is history, the nation will have cause to celebrate the public servants derided by Trumpists as the supposed deep state. The term itself is propaganda, intended to cast a sinister light upon men and women whom Trump and his minions find annoyingly knowledgeable and experienced. They are not participants in any kind of dark conspiracy. Rather, they are feared and loathed by the president and his wrecking crew of know-nothings because they have spent years, often decades, mastering the details of foreign and domestic policy." At this point, we must point out just who these public servants are. In the 2016 presidential election, according to the Federal Elections Commission, more than 80% of federal workers who gave political contributions from the top 14 federal agencies gave to Hillary Clinton. In some agencies, it was just over 99%. Now that's quite a sizable force, one that is ideologically opposed to Trump's America First agenda. These servants help to implement policy and the day-to-day operations of the federal government. So who is pushing policy? Well, when it comes to defense and foreign policies, the late U.S. Admiral Chester Ward wrote that anyone can determine years in advance what the future defense and foreign policies of the United States will be. If a certain proposition is repeated often enough in a specific journal, then the U.S. administration in power, be it Republican or Democratic, begins to act as if that proposition or assumption were an established fact. Now, the journal that he referred to was Foreign Affairs, the journal of the Council on Foreign Relations. The CFR has embedded its members within presidential cabinets for decades, not to mention the media, large foundations, large banking institutions, virtually the entire establishment. And much of what is presented as advice in that journal ends up becoming future policy. In April 1974, Foreign Affairs published an article by former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State Richard Gardner, who wrote in an article entitled "The Hard Road to World Order." He writes, "The house of world order will have to be built from the bottom up instead of the top down. It will look like a great booming, buzzing confusion, to use William James's famous description of reality, but an end run around national sovereignty, eroding it piece by piece, will accomplish much more than the old-fashioned frontal assault." Now, as Alex Newman writes in the Deep State Special Report for the New American, deception and a slow subversion process, then, are the tools of the CFR. And of course, the House of World Order, as written by Mr. Gardner, shows the building of a new world order. Naturally, when an elected president wants to put the agenda of America first, he is going to run into some deeply entrenched opposition, given how long the CFR and its globalist supporters have had to worm their way into the federal Leviathan. And actually, Mr. Robinson is merely agreeing with the CFR, who published in Foreign Affairs last September that a healthy, high-quality bureaucracy is a national treasure. Now, they refer to this bureaucracy as the deep state. And back to Mr. Robinson. God bless them, he writes, with the supine Congress unwilling to play the role it is assigned by the Constitution, the deep state stands between us and the abyss. And he further writes here, my second page, experienced government officials know that their job is to serve the president. But what if the president does not serve the best interests of that nation? In this emergency, the loyal and honorable deep state has a higher duty. It's called patriotism. Patriotism. At thenewamerican.com, John McManus points out that the CFR recently held a forum in New York City that featured Richard Stengel. Mr. Stengel is a CFR member, a former Obama administration State Department official, and Time magazine's former managing editor. He suggested that governments must direct propaganda at their own populations. Now, Mr. McManus wrote, in recent years, the term propaganda has come to mean information that its dispenser employs to distort reality in favor of what the distorter seeks. In the past, the word didn't connote deceit, but it surely has become widely known as something that reeks of deceptiveness. In April, Stengel employed the term during a panel assembled at the elitist CFR to discuss fake news. He continues, a brief look at some history sheds light on the significance of the influential platform Stengel used to champion government propaganda. On October 30th, 1993, the Washington Post published a column authored by CFR member Richard Harwood. Entitled Ruling Class Journalists, Harwood openly and proudly told of CFR members holding leadership posts at America's governmental level and also their near total dominance in the newspaper and news magazine world. A journalist himself, Harwood thought it remarkable that so many of his confreres and government officials shared membership in the council. He assessed their impact as they do not merely analyze and interpret foreign policy for the United States, they help make it. Even though Mr. Robinson is not a CFR member, he certainly is delivering their propaganda, which may come to serve a useful purpose. As one insightful commenter of Mr. Robinson's article wrote, wait a minute, so last week, if you thought there was some unelected cabal of high-ranking bureaucrats deciding for themselves who should run this country and how, then you were nuts, bonkers, wacko, dippy. But this week, this same and once imaginary group is the savior of the republic? On that note, we'll end with telling you that the John Birch Society has been exposing the fake news and the deep state since 1958. If you want news that gives it to you straight and helps to awaken other patriots, then action item number 1, subscribe to the New American magazine. Our digital subscription is only $12.95 for 24 issues per year. Or join the John Birch Society and get the print or digital magazine as part of your membership benefits. You'll then be part of an active organization that not only exposes anti-American agenda, but also battles it through education. Links are in the video description. Please like and share this and subscribe to our social media channels and news alerts. Until next time, we'll see you then.